Love it or hate it, timeshare or shared vacation ownership is a popular and lucrative industry in South Africa. An estimated 2 billion rand industry, timeshare involves more than 200 resorts and 260,000 shared vacation owners in South Africa alone. Joining me in studio now to give us some insight into the local timeshare industry is John Meyer, Director at Vacation Ownership Association of South Africa. John, thanks so much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
It's a really big industry. We're looking at 2 billion rand industry. You mentioned some of those numbers at the top, but just looking at how much it's grown, what kind of growth have we experienced over the last few years?
Well, it's been double digits up until this year, and we're very proud of that in the sense that it's been consistent. It hasn't been erratic growth at all.
Okay, double digits you're looking at here in terms of growth. How have resorts, numbers of resorts also grown?
Not to the same extent, but what has happened, there's been development in existing resorts. So what has happened is there's an existing resort, and those developers have then added to that and utilized the infrastructure that's already there.
And created more capacity.
That's right, yes.
How many owners are we looking at here in South Africa?
You're looking at about 260,000 timeshare owners, yes.
260,000. Just looking at some of the concerns that have emerged, given the fact that we have seen double-digit growth, you're sitting with 260,000 owners, is there enough capacity to deal with the demand?
Certainly at this point in time there is. Obviously we would like to see more developers coming into the industry because, again, the old story of going to the same place. But if we could do that, certainly currently the demand is sufficient.
Let's take it a step back. What is vacation ownership? Basically explain to us what timeshare is. I think there's still a lot of people out there not really sure how it works.
Right. Well, the name actually comes from the computer industry. When in the good old days when computers were that big and people had to share computers, and so they shared time, and then that was taken to the hotel industry with the oil crisis. So basically what it means is that you have different people owning different segments of use in an establishment. So you could have 52 owners in one unit, and based on that they contribute to the operating costs, and that is really timeshare in a nutshell.
And essentially the timeshare industry in South Africa is self-regulated through VOASA.
Yes, it's self-regulated, and also we have got quite stringent laws as far as
because again, I allude to some of the criticism that has come to the fore, and this is why we've got the new Consumer Protection Act bringing the timeshare also under the spotlight, because we have seen cases of fraud and a lot of complaints coming to the fore as well. Tell us about what your experience has been with consumers out there not being entirely happy with timeshare.
I think the biggest issue with timeshare is that it's a presentation that lasts maybe an hour, hour and a half. People then go home, they have got their brochures with them, but they don't really understand the product until they start trying to use it. So what we do find is when they make reservations, they then either don't leave enough lead time, or they want a specific resort in a specific area. And obviously it's supply and demand. There are only so many units available in that resort. And that is one of the major frustrations that one faces. That's overcome by the fact that the clubs and RCI all club in together in terms of making stock available. So there is an exchange system that works.
What kind of deficit are we looking at here? I mean, stock not being available during those high peak seasons and not in the resorts that people are, usually demanding for.
Well, if you look at pure timeshare, then there's 1 week per owner. So there's no deficit. There can't be, because you can't oversell. What does happen is when those people exchange out and they go to other destinations, i.e. overseas, and then their unit becomes available, then you have people clamoring to get into that unit. So it's an exchange system that actually creates the supply and demand.
Let's look at the popularity of vacation ownership on a global level. I mean, what has come to the fore, and where does South Africa and the continent fit in?
South Africa has got very good market penetration internationally compared to international standards, and it's one of the forerunners in terms of innovative products, new products. In fact, the points for the club systems were second in the world in South Africa and have developed from there. So in many instances we are leaders as far as the industry is concerned in terms of product innovation.
Well, let's also just bring to the fore the fact that contracts cannot be cancelled. I mean, this is one of the big concerns. Can contracts be cancelled if you're tied into it, or do you have to be tied into it for a lifetime and then pass that on to your children? Because that's, I think, the perception out there.
Right. Well, the nature of the product is either perpetuity product or a finite. So you get both products. You get limited term, or you get perpetuity products. A perpetuity product means just like a house, you've purchased it until you on-sell it or resell it, it remains yours. So it is real estate, it's classed as real estate in terms of the Estate Agents Act and also in terms of the Share Block Control Act. So how do you get out of the contract? You either sell it, on-sell it, donate it, or negotiate with another purchaser.
So essentially the onus is on you, that's what I'm hearing. So
That's
they
right.
can't do it through VOASA, they can't do it through the RCI, the onus is on the consumer to resell that.
Basically VOASA is the self-regulatory body, so they're not involved in that, but what they do is they accredit agents, and if you go to an accredited VOASA agent, then your chances of being dealt with professionally are obviously very good. And as far as RCI is concerned, that's an exchange organization, so again, they're not on the sales side.
So you don't necessarily have to sell it yourself, someone can do that
Somebody
for you.
can do it, there are resale agents out there, yes.
And obviously that comes at a cost, surely.
That comes at a cost, but what happens is that is factored into the selling price, and then there's a negotiation from there.
And what kind of penalties do people normally pay if they renege on a contract?
Well, it depends on if they've paid the capital or they're just in arrears in terms of their levies. Let's say they haven't paid off the capital. Obviously, the marketing costs in timeshare are extremely high. So a large portion of the purchase price is taken up by marketing commissions, promotions, and then you have obviously your stock costs and your holding costs. So let's say somebody wanted to on-sell and they had a 5-year contract, then after 2 years they'd still be owing approximately half of what they purchased.
You know, we've also heard news that perhaps the industry is contravening the National Credit Act because there's a failure to conduct affordability assessments. Is that going to change? I mean, does VOASA and does the RCI conduct affordability assessments to ensure that the consumer that they're selling the product to can actually afford it?
Sure. First of all the developers are registered with the National Credit Regulator. And as such they have to comply with all the credit regulations. In terms of the affordability test, there are different tests that one can have a look at. Most of the companies are very, very strict as far as that is concerned, and in fact go so far that the consumer fills in that form themselves. It's not even filled in by the agent. So that's all to curb it and to make it more transparent and also more affordable.
Fantastic, John. Thank you very much for your time.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you.